COVID was horrible. And I'm not just talking about generally speaking that the globalists and their agenda to take our freedoms from us in this country and in our governmental system. I'm not even talking about the communistic, materialistic atheism that is the worldview and foundation of many of these people who are implementing various tactics to try to take more and more of our freedom. I'm not even talking about that primarily. I'm talking about the cowardice of the Christian church and Christian ministries during the time of COVID. Now, I knew about cowardice within the Christian church. I know that so many people care about personal comfort, financial gain, and the praises of men within the Evangelical and Protestant church. This is by no means degrading Christ's bride. This is actually a love for Christ's bride. I love Jesus. Jesus saved me. And I love Christ's bride. And that's why when people are hirelings abusing Christ's bride, it makes me very angry. And it makes me want to make a video like this. I knew about all that. But even though I knew about all of those things, when COVID-19 took place, I was shocked that the general public, especially in rural areas, began to wear masks. I was utterly shocked when that first began to happen. I could not believe that people would go along with these things, and that the most courageous thing that people could do is wear a mask that said faith over fear, as if that was actually standing against the problem. Instead of refusing to wear a mask, instead of refusing to go along with the lie. Listen, we've got to do better. We've got to do better, but specifically within the Christian church and Christian ministries. Come on, guys, what are we doing? Even the most conservative churches, the churches that took a stand, they still shut down for the first few weeks and sometimes the first few months. They allowed the civil government, which has no authority over Christ's bride and his church. And it was so obvious this was a play. I'm very concerned about the lack of discernment and courage among the bride of Christ, and specifically the leadership of the churches, local churches, and ministries. The most conservative churches did something. Like there was a church in Phoenix that did not stop having services, but when I visited there in 2020, they still required us to put Germ-X on our hands before we took communion, just to give some sort of a nod to this lie. To give some sort of a nod to the governmental authorities or the naysayers who might rise up in their congregation or online or whatever they were concerned about. I am absolutely convinced that they would not have cared about Germ-X on your hands if you're passing by and grabbing a piece of bread for communion. It just doesn't make any sense. Many times the pastors were following the congregation. Maybe it was the deacons, maybe it was the other elders. And much of the time, these men were listening to the women within the church. Men were not standing up and standing on principle and obeying God rather than man, but they were listening to the women in the congregation. They were listening to the weak or undiscerning men within the congregation, and they were leading people astray. Can't let this happen again. Christian pastors, we need to know what our authority is, where our authority comes from. The Word of God, from the person of Jesus Christ. He's given us our marching orders. I mean, people throughout history and even today are meeting secretly away from governmental authorities in order to meet week by week, sometimes day by day, to fellowship, commune, grow together, encouraging one another, rebuking, so on and so forth, so that we can grow in the likeness of Jesus Christ. We can't do that again. We can't give up the commission simply because we are being cowardly. In Revelation 21, the cowards are cast into hell. They're the first ones on the list in Revelation 21:8. The righteous are as bold as a lion.